and welcome to Thursday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. And on screen we've got one of the most beautiful puzzles I can possibly remember. I mean, look at this. It looks like a sort of archery target or something like that. There are no digits at all, partial killer cages, and this has come in from RockyRoer, who's been publishing puzzles for a while actually over in Logic Masters Germany, and I checked today and somehow he hasn't appeared on the channel before, so we're going to rectify that today. Now RockyRoer is a maths teacher from the US, and he's been busy churning out puzzles during lockdown, and he thinks this is his best puzzle, so I am very much looking forward to trying it. And one of the things that intrigued me about his email that he sent sort of asking us to have a look at this puzzle was that, being a teacher, he's extremely keen to ensure that puzzles have what he calls teachable moments. So he wants us to study a teaser he's prepared, a sort of appetizer before we do the main entree, because he says the teaser logic will be helpful for the main puzzle. And as a teacher, he likes to introduce an idea and then have his students apply it to problems, which sounds brilliant to me. So we're going to have a look at the teaser first, and then we will try this puzzle after that. Now, he then blotted his copybook, I'm afraid to say, because he then quoted Mark in saying that he viewed this puzzle to be approachable. Now, anyone who knows Mark and his descriptions of puzzles as approachable will know that we should take those with a large pinch of salt, and probably what we will find is that this is the most brutal Sudoku ever to come out of the minds of man. But we will see. Now, firstly, let us have a look at this teaser then. Where is it? Here. So this is the teaser. Now, let me just show you it in the form he sent it to me, which is this one. So, if this were a valid Sudoku, in the completed solution, which ring contains the greater sum? Now, I've done enough killer Sudokus that I know how to work this out, but if you haven't seen this before, it's worth thinking about. Now, I think the point that RockyRoer is trying to get us to appreciate is that, you know, on the face of it, it would seem extraordinary for the purple ring to get anywhere close to the red ring. The red ring is 9 by 9. It's got a lot more digits than the 7 by 7 ring, obviously. But that's until you start to note, there are some very large digits in the corners here. And with 2 9s and 2 8s in the corners, we know that there can't be any more 9s and 8s in the red cells. Whereas if you look at the purple cells, it's actually possible for there to be 4 9s and 4 8s in the purples. In fact, there is 4 9s and 4 8s in the purples, I suppose, unless... no, I think there just is. But so does this sort of narrow down the sort of gap that would ordinarily be apparent between the sums of the purples and the sums of the reds? Well, let's try and do this logically and see if we can work it out. Now, the way I like to think about these sort of perimeter type questions is I imagine we've got a complete row of a Sudoku. Now, we know that in the completed Sudoku there will be the digits 1 to 9, and therefore if you add those up you get 45. So I know these sort of slightly yellow tinged cells add up to 45. I know those squares add up to 45. I know this column on its own sums up to 45, and I know this column on its own sums up to 45. Now, hopefully it's clear that we can't then immediately jump to saying that the perimeter adds to 180, because if we were to do that, we would have double counted these corner squares. Because obviously if I add this row as 45 and this column as 45, I've counted this cell twice. So the 4 corners are counted twice in that sort of arithmetic. So 180, we need to deduct from that what we've got in the corner squares, which is 34. So actually we now are able to say with certainty that in this particular puzzle, the perimeter sums to 146. Now we can just extend that logic to work out what the purple squares add up to. So if we look at that row will be 45 on its own, this row will be 45 on its own. But obviously the purple squares in those rows, we need to deduct out these 1s and 5s. So we need to deduct out 2 lots of 6, so we're 12, so we've got 78. So we know that this string of purples and this string of purples add to 78. Now we could do the same logic here, look, to get the sum of these purples, and again the symmetrical logic, that's just going to be 78 as well, because look what we've got hiding in the red cells in those columns. We've got another pair of 6s, or 1s and 5s. So we've now got these cells add to 78, these cells add to 78, therefore we've got 78 times 2 is 156, minus the corner squares again, that's 2 lots of 5, that's 10, 146. So actually in this particular puzzle, somewhat amazingly, the red squares and the purple squares have an equal value. And just to blow your mind even further, I will mention that Veenendaal invented a theorem, or found a theorem, that said that these 4 2x2 blocks in the corners, the digits that appear in these perimeter cells, these 2x2s, are identical to the digits that you'd find in this ring of the Sudoku. So we have done a video on this before, so if I remember I will put a card on the screen that talks about this. But yeah, Veenendaal, very clever guy, and that's certainly a very interesting point. Now let's go back to RockyRoer's actual puzzle that he wants us to do, and apparently that logic we just did then is going to be important for solving this. Now I should read you the rules, of course, so let me do that. We've got normal Sudoku rules apply. Digits cannot repeat in cages, but the cage totals will need to be deduced. Each coloured ring contains cages that all have the same total. However, the totals may differ from ring to ring. In addition, the sum of the numbers in each coloured ring will appear in the rectangle outlines. Right, so that... I mean, isn't it amazing that this puzzle has a unique solution? With a few cages with no numbers and the totals, that is enough. I mean, what a remarkable construction. I can say that however this solves, it is just an incredibly elegant idea. And yeah, do have a go. Click on the link under the video as usual to play the puzzle. And with that, let's get cracking. Now, I guess what we should do to get cracking is write a 1 into that square. That's what I know I can do that, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to have a 1. I'm not going to spend 50 minutes to get a digit in the grid, as I sometimes have to. I'm just going to write a 1 in there. And how do I know this is a 1? Well, because of the logic we were just talking about. We know that the perimeter adds up to 180 minus what we put in the corners. And I can't put enough in the corners to bring the total below 146, so that square has got to be a 1, definitely. This square has got to be greater than 4, and I suppose less than 180, so that is a little bit restricted. Now, I'm not sure. This perimeter, we've got 4 cell, 3 cell, 2 cell, 5 cell, 3 cell cages. So there is a little bit of a restriction on the cage totals in the blue cells because of the juxtaposition of a 5 cell cage and a 2 cell cage. A 5 cell cage, if I put the absolute minimums I could put in there, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, because obviously I can't repeat a digit. Well, they already add up to 15. Now, what's the maximum I could put in a 2 cell cage? Well, that's going to be 8 and 9, which adds to 17. So we actually know straight away that the totals for the cages in the blue region are either 15, 16 or 17. So maybe we can do something with row 9 here, look, because if this is 15 and this is 15, these 2 cells would add to 15. If it's 16 and 16, these would add to 13. And obviously all I'm doing here is deducting these totals from 45 in order to get these extreme cells here. If it's 17 and 17, that's 34. These would have to add up to 11. So these yellow squares add up to 11, 13 or 15, and that is absolutely useless. Bobbins. Okay. No, I'm a bit of a loss. I'm going to go on to the next ring. We've got a green ring here. Now the green ring has a very interesting geometry. Look, it has only got 8 cell cages in it. So the 24 cells that make up the green ring are divided into 3 8-cell cages. Now that is very interesting, because that means that because we can't repeat a digit in a cage, 8 of the 9 digits will appear, and they have to be the same 8 digits in each of these cages. So each of these cages is missing 1 digit, and that digit will therefore have to appear in these positions in the rows and columns that are affected by the green ring, because right, I think we should study this. This seems interesting to me. So if we've got, what could we have? We could have all 8 digits apart from 1 in the green region. So that would be 44 they would add up to, because 45 minus 1 is 44. 44, 3 lots of 44 is 132. So this would have to be 132, which are all different digits, which is rather promising, isn't it? But no, it is very promising, except that we started off by saying there was no 1 in the greens. So this doesn't work, because if there is no 1 in the greens, the total for the greens has to be 132, which puts a 1 back in the greens. So that is not right. There isn't. So we know there is a 1 in the green region now. So what about? Oh no, there's no 2 in the green region then, for the same reason, because if 44 times 3 is 132, 43 times 3 must be just 3 less than that, which has a 2 in it again. So it's got to be 129, hasn't it? So if you remove the 2, you get a 2 back again, exactly in the same way that it worked with the 1. So 3 is going to be 126, which works. 4 will be 123, which also works. 5 doesn't work for a different reason. 5 is going to make this square into a 0, because you're going to have 3 lots of 40. And you can't put a 0 in the Sudoku, or at least not in this Sudoku. So 5 is out. 6 will go down to... Oh, 6 isn't going to work, because you're going to have 117. In fact, nothing works. Nothing works below 6, because you either have a number that begins with a double 1, or once you don't, you have to put a 0 there. I can't put 0, it won't let me put it in. This is an innovation we are working on at the moment. We've got exciting times for the web application. But this is very interesting. So 1 and 2 don't work, and 5, 6, 7, and 8 and 9 don't work. So this is definitely a 2, and this is either a 3 or a 6. Now, can we take this any further? So there's now definitely a 1 in one of those squares by Sudoku. So if this is 1, 2, 3, that's 41 times 3. It's missing a 4. There's a 4 in one of these squares. A 4 in one of those squares looks good. If this is 1, 2, 6, we're missing a 3. So that couldn't be. This would have to be a 3. And this can't be a 3. No, it can't be a 3. Because the blues either... These cages add up to 15, 16 or 17. I can't put a 3 here. So Oh, this is absolutely beautiful. What a start. So let's just think about this. We've narrowed this down, the green regions, to just two possibilities. We're either missing a 3 from every green region or a 4. And that gives us the problem of how do we place that 3 or 4 in the rows that are affected by the green regions and the columns. So if this is a 6, we now have the challenge of placing a 3 somewhere. And the problem we're going to have is in column 8. You cannot put a 3 here. So this cannot be a 6. This is a 3. And now we have to put a 4 into each of these places. And the 4 can't go here either, but this is beautiful. The 4 can't go here because this has to add to 15, 16 or 17. But that can be a 4 and indeed therefore must be a 4. And that, now this can't, oh, we're going to get all the 4s, are we? Look at the geometry. Look at the way this geometry is unwinding. Once this square is the 4 in column 8, you can't put a 4 here in row 2. So the 4 goes here. Now you can't put a 4 here in column 2. So the 4 goes there. You can't put a 4 here in row 8. The 4 goes there. So the 4s all get placed. That is just a beautiful start to this Sudoku. Now, this is now quite restricted, isn't it? Because I know this has to be 1, 4, 6 or higher. In fact, that's got to be 6, 7, 8 or 9. There's got to be a 4 in one of those squares by Sudoku. 4s, 4s, 4s. In fact, that's the starting point of the Fistemafel thing, isn't it? You can see there are 4 4s in the 2 by 2s around the edge. So the 4's all getting shifted into the yellow ring. Now, actually, look. We've got to... Yeah, this is interesting. What's this got to be? What's the total for the yellow ring? And the reason we can ask that question is we've got a blue ring, a green ring and a yellow ring which entirely enfold 8 3x3 boxes of the Sudoku. Now we know one 3x3 box in a Sudoku adds to 45. 8 45s are 360. So I know that this sum plus this has to equal 360. Which actually is a challenge because this sum and this sum is something between 269 and 272. So this, yeah, so this is actually quite restricted, isn't it? This square, in fact that can't be a 9. This can't be a 9. This is lovely. This can't be a 9 because if you make this a 9, I think this has to be 88, doesn't it? Because that's 272. I've got to add 88 to get to 360. So I'd have to put 8 and 8 there, and obviously we can't do that in a Sudoku. So this square is not 9. Now if this is 8, I have to make this 89. That might work. Let's pencil mark that in, 89. If this is 7, 7 won't work because these two squares add up to 10. So these two squares would have to end in a 0, which they can't. They'd have to be 90, which obviously won't work. So that's not 7. If this is 6, this can't be 6. This can't be 6 for a different reason. Not to do with 360, but with the fact that if I put 6 in there, I've now defined the blue squares as adding to 146, which means that the corner squares have to add up to 34, which they can't do once this is a 6. What a puzzle. Oh my goodness me. Obviously, if I have a 6 here, these 3 squares would have to add up to 28, and even if I made them all 9, that wouldn't be enough. So this is just not 6. So this just is 8, which means this. So this just is 89. It just is. That's the only way this works. That is quite beautiful. Quite beautiful. Now let's have a thing. Now we can place an 8. Well, we can't place the 8. We can pencil mark 8s into those squares. What else can we do here? We can. I'm sure we can do something. Just not sure what it is. Can we use the yellow ring now? The yellow ring. So the yellow ring adds to 89. It's got a 6-cell cage and a 3-cell cage in the same ring. Now that, again, this is such clever setting, because what it's doing each time is it's allowing us to limit the options. Because a 6-cell cage, if I make this as small as I can, I'd have to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 into it. Well, they add up to 21. But what's the maximum I can make a 3-cell cage? Well, that would be 7, 8, 9, which add up to 24. So I know the cages in the yellow ring add up to either 21, 22, 23 or 24. And the problem with the yellow ring is I've got 3 squares, these 3 squares, that are not in cages at all. So even if I knew the exact cage total for the yellow ring, I still would have to fiddle around with these 2 squares to learn much more about it. I'm not sure this is where I'm meant to look now. It might be. But my brain isn't telling me anything good as a result of this. So I'm going to look at the red ring. Now the red ring doesn't include the central square, so okay, this is interesting. This is interesting because now we can see, if we look at the red ring, we've got exactly 3 cages in it. So let's say that each of these cages was x. We've got 3x plus whatever we put in the center, I'll call that y. 3x plus y has got to equal 45 because I know that's what a single box adds up to. But why is that interesting? Well, 45 is itself divisible by 3. So whatever I put into this square has to be divisible. It has to be a multiple of 3 to ensure that I get an integer total when I divide 45 minus whatever I put in this square by 3. So this has to be 3, 6 or 9. And this total is either 42 or 39. Oh, no, it just is. It's just 42. Because if I make this a 6 or a 9, this square becomes a 3, which it can't be. So this has to be a 4, this has to be a 2, and this has to be a 3. And this 4 sees all sorts of 4s around in the yellow ring. And now what? As usual, I apologise if you're spotting lots of things before I am. It's always the way. It is a problem with live solving, and I think live solving is definitely the thing that seems to be popular, but you just have to bear with us when we get stuck, which I know must feel like it's quite often. But the 1s and 4s, look, this has to be a 1-4 pair in this in box 2, just by Sudoku. Now that's interesting. Look at this 6-cell region. We know this has to add up to 21, 22, 23 or 24. Well, it's got to have a 1 in it then, because 2, 3, 4 5, 6 and 7 adds up to 26, which is obviously going to be higher than we could ever make this 3-cell cage. Now if there's a 1 in here, it has to go there because of this 1 at the top. So we get the 1, we get the 4, we get a 4 at the bottom. No, hang on, look now, I've now got 2 of my uncaged digits in the yellows. So let me think about this. So I've got 3 cages, so 3x plus 4 plus 9 plus whatever's in that square equals 89. So if this square is y, I've got 3x plus y equals 76. That's just deducting from 89, 9 and 4 obviously. So 3x plus y equals 76. So we can start ruling out options here. This can't be 21. Because if this is 21, 21 times 3 is 63. This square would have to be a 13. That doesn't work. In fact, 22 doesn't work either because this square would have to be a 10. In fact, oh, this is brilliant. This can never be a 4 because this has to be 23 or 24, which means this has to be 23 or 24, which means not only does it have a 9 in it, but it most certainly doesn't have a 4 in it. So this is the 4, this is the 4, and this 4 of course is the digit that we're looking for. So we now know that 3x plus y equals 76 can be restated as 3x plus 4 equals 76, which means that 3x equals 72, which means x equals 24, which means this is a 7-9 pair, and we are cooking with gas. Is that all I get for that? That's not fair. Oh, bother. Sorry, that doesn't seem to have done anything. Well, I got some 4s as a result of that, but that seems to be all you get. So what am I meant to do now? I've got this as 1, 4, 8. Oh, okay, well I think this is the only thing I've not really used. This 8. So this means the perimeter squares have got to add up to 32 exactly. And this is an 8. So these squares have to add up. These squares have to add up to 24 exactly. Now, can we set up to 24 exactly? So maybe I've got to think about this. This is either 2 lots of 15, 2 lots of 16, or 2 lots of 17. Yeah, okay. So if it's 2 lots of 17, this would add up to 11. And that doesn't work, because I'd have to put 13 into this square, and I can't do that. Even I know that. So this is not 2 lots of 17. If it's 2 lots of 16, these two squares have to add up to 13. And that still has to be 11. This has to be a 9. So yeah, just to reiterate, what I'm trying to do is to make sure these 4 squares add to 32. But because of the options for the cages down here, it's beautiful setting again, isn't it? It's just gorgeous. Because these either have to add up to 30, 32 or 34, these 2 squares are limited, and therefore this square becomes limited. And in order to keep this square to a single digit number, I have to make it 9. This has to add up to 15, and actually if this adds to 15, it's a 5-cell cage. We can write in the options. And this adds to 15. So I don't quite know what that is yet. And these also add up to 15. Now, this one can't be an 8, so that's a 6, 7, or a 9. This one can't be a 9, so this is a 7, 8, or a 9. So if this... Oh, sorry, 6. What am I doing? 6, 7, 8. So if this is 9, this is 6. If this... Oh, this can't be a 7, look, because... This can't be a 7 either. You can never put a 7 in those squares. Oh no, you can if that's an 8. What am I talking about? This can't be a 6 because I can't make that one a 9. So we get a 6, 8 here, a 7, 9 here. Now, can we... We can! Look! This cage now. Now we've established that the cages in the blue perimeter add up to 15. I can't make this a 7 anymore. So if this is a 7, that's a 4. That's the only way of getting to 15. So this square has to be a 9. This square must be a 6 to keep this to 15. This must be, oops, a 6, 9 pair. This must be a 2 to keep this to 15. These two squares have got to add up to they've got to add up to 9 because this is a 6. So without using 4, 5 or 3, 6, they're either going to be 2, 7 or 1, 8 by the looks of things. Oh, but they can't be 1, 8 because I've got to put the 1 in this box. Look, because of this square, the 1's got to go there. So this is not 1, 8. So this is 7, 2, which we can place. So there's a 7 in one of those two cells now. Now I feel like we've made quite good progress, but we're still... Ah, look, I can do geometry on this column. This adds up to 15, this adds up to 15, so these two squares add up to 15, so this is a 7. 7 must be in one of these three positions in box 2, which means it's not there, which means it's here. Wondering whether I can use the geometry of these green shapes at all, because they're seriously... We know there's no 4 in them. Yeah, I mean, look at the... We know there's got to be a 7 in this one, and these 7s rule out all of those positions, so there's a 7 in one of those two squares. In fact, this is gorgeous again. This is gorgeous again. Look at this square. This square sees almost the entirety of this green region. So we know, because this isn't a 4, and we know that whatever is in this square must make an appearance in this green region, whatever's in this square can only make an appearance in this green region in this particular square. So these squares are mirrors. This square is a 7 or an 8, but it can't be a 7. So this square must be an 8. This square must be an 8. This is a 7. This is one of my favourite puzzles I've done recently. This is just so beautiful. The setting of this puzzle it's been given so much care and attention. It's just a thrill to solve puzzles like this. It really is. Now let's see if we can keep it going though. We've done quite well to here. Those squares have got to add up to 15. They've got to be 1, 3, 5 and 6. The relief there is that they do add up to 15, so that looks like it's working. Actually, look, can I use the 4 and 2 here? This has to add up to 14, doesn't it? Ah, yeah, I can. if this cage adds to 14, these two cells have got to add up to 8. They can't be 2, 6 or 3, 5. They've got to be 1 and 7, and there's a 1 there. So that's a 1, that's a 7. This isn't 7 up here. This isn't 7 up here. This must be a 7 here. That's a 9. This 7 forces that to be a 7. Look, and this has to add up to 14 without using 8, so that's got to be 5 and 9. This has got to be 6 and 8. This 8 fixes the 8 goes there. That fixes the 8 and the 6. Let's remove the 8 pencil mark. This can't be 8 anymore over on this side. This can't be 1. Now, 9 must be pencil marked into those two squares. I feel like I must have almost used all of the information now. Am I meant to use... Am I meant to try and use this 1, 2, 3 to isolate the value of these corners, perhaps? Is that what I should be thinking about? It's not... Well, it would be possible if I could get that square, maybe. I don't know, but I'm going to carry on just with normal logic at the moment. So 2, 3 and... where does 3 go? Look, 3's got to go there. That's just straight Sudoku. That can't be a 2. This can't be a 1. That can't be a 2, so this must be the 2. 2 must go here by Sudoku. 5, 6 and 7 at the top, look. I'm not sure if we can resolve it, but let's pencil mark it in anyway. That can't be 6. So looking along this row, we need 5, 6 and 9. Again, I'm not seeing how to resolve that. I feel like there must be another... Yeah, here it is. Here it is. I felt like I wasn't going to make much progress here. But look, I can use the geometry of the grid again on row 7. This little 4-cell cage here adds up to, what was it? 24. So this is 24. 39 plus 2 is 41. This has to be a 1-3 pair. There's a 1 at the top. Nice. 1-3 there. Does that do me the power of good? Well, it gives me a 5-6 here, which again is interesting and all, but 6 is now placeable in box 8. That places the 6 up here. Gives me a 5-7 pair here. This has got to be 3 and 6. I don't know the order of that, but that will allow me to place 5 into that square to complete that box. You can see that's rather nice on column 1 now. I'm looking for 1, 3 and 8. I don't know if I can fix any of those. I can remove the 8 and the 1 from those two. These squares have got to be 2, 5 and 6. Again, I'm not sure we can finish it off. But that does fix my 3, 6 at the top. That fixes this square as a 9. Where does 9 go in box 8 now? It's got to go here. These 3 squares have got to be, that's got to be a 5, in fact, to complete this row. So that's a 1 and that's a 3, I think. These squares have got to be 1, 7, which we can do. This fixes the 5 at the bottom, fixes the 5, 7 at the top. And I don't want to speak too soon, but I am hopeful now that we are not too far away from finishing this puzzle. So, is there anything more we're going to be able to... Yes, look, we can use this. Can we use the geometry? Yes, we can. Oh, it's gorgeous again. Column 7's geometry is important because this 1 means those squares add to 23. Because we know the total for this cage is 24. So I've got 23, 24, 31. These two squares have got to add up to 14 to make 45 for the column. Well, the only way that works is with this being a 9, this being a 5, that being a 6, that being a 5. So this square here can't be 5 anymore. 2, 3 and 6 into those two squares. That can't be 6, that can't be 3. Ah, not quite. Oh, it must be about to topple. Where are you gonna, where? Come on. Right, let's look at this column. We need 2, 6 and 8. So, there, look, this square here can't be 6 or 8, so that's got to be the 2. That fixes the 6, the 3, the 2. That must be the 8 now. 8 can only go there in box 4. And this 3 fixes, obviously, the 1, 5, 6 triple here. So we must place a 3 there. This square's got to be a 9. That fixes the 9 and the 5 finally. Fixes the 6, fixes the 2, the 5, the 6. The 3 fixes the 3 and the 1. That must be a 1. If I haven't made an error, I'll put a 5 there. That looks good. Click check. That is how to solve that puzzle. I loved that. That was just a sensational Sudoku. It's so interesting. Start to finish, just gorgeous. Let me know in the comments what you thought. I hope you were as impressed with that as I was. Now, RockyRoer did say he's a massive Star Wars fan, as am I. So I hope he approves of the way I stayed on target then. Stay on target, stay on target. And we'll be back later with another edition. Cracking the Cryptic.